No, it is supported, but not planning.
Do you want to see, right?
Well, I want to see both. Well, this one primarily. So camera two is the primary. So the other question is here. So this will be, we should definitely have a slide presentation, but if they want to see the person talking, then that's also okay. Yeah.
It's just counts and then hard for me to see.
Yeah. That was from the last time people wanted to be able to see the presenter as well as the group. So I figured it was probably a few members to do that. But again, can they hear from here?
Yeah, right. Like, okay. We'll have confidence. When you're on facing ones.
Well, the last time we did this, those in the virtual said, hey, we couldn't see for that.
Yeah, yeah, last time I did this.
And so that's what I turned around, I started holding the laptop. And then so this time that's where back there is focusing on the speakers. So people can focus, see that, you have the whole model of other things here. With presentation, they don't need to work it straight. So you have to still see set jobs to do that. Mine will be straight today. Well, that's why I got the speaker. So I do the laptop that has the I think last time I had a speaker through a lot of this presentation.
See the is the big thing.
Oh, they just has.
Well, he's online.
Huh? You should be able to see it on here.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm gonna just.
Because you're right now, you're muted and you have no picture showing.
Yes.
Okay.
It's really good. Yeah, they don't show up because we have like you can fix them.
Yeah, so it's showing up again. So this is the main, these are the other twos. Yeah.
And those are
Yeah, no, they're not. Because I was trying to tie it with this. It wouldn't drop. But I do have a
No, so I think they were just coming and going.
Okay.
They were the
No, I was wondering, a little bit more. This is good to see.
So, That's exactly correct. That's, I'm ready Yeah.
Alright, so there are 5 here, 6.
Yeah, right. I was.
Well, we should take Joseph.
Yeah, I couldn't question that. All right. My part is still after. Okay, everyone, we're gonna start.
Is someone able to hear,
Welcome, Joseph.
and that can tell me where the location of the in-person meeting is?
Oh, my third, sorry. That part was wrong. I thought I had a half hour. Okay, where do I go? Yeah, waiting for that.
Right here, just so the cameras can see you. Yeah, perfect.
In my direction?
Move to your left.
My left.
A little bit more, right there. Good.
Okay, this camera, okay.
And if you want Mike?
Sure. Okay. Sorry, folks, I really thought it was 5:05 over the process. Okay. Can you hear me? Okay, great. All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Joseph Hayden, and I've lived in Solano County for over 5 years now. Although I lived in the East Bay for decades of my life also. I've been a tobacco-free Solano co-chair for about 3 years, if my math is right. I'm here tonight because I care deeply about the place we call home. And I'm here for the people who want to live their best lives for generations to come. Life is too often cut short when addiction, like the scourge of tobacco and nicotine, take its toll on our families. I know it's taken many years off the lives of my loved ones, destroying the continuity that should have been there between generations. Not only have I seen how smoking and the use of other tobacco products affects families, I have no memories of my own grandmother, and my daughter has no memories of my dad. Both my grandmother and my dad died at 15. I've also watched loved ones struggle to quit, not to mention my own cousin, Ivan, who smoked heavily and died at 35 from osteosarcoma. So every day I still witness how easy it is for people to be influenced by tobacco normalization in the media and ads near schools and corner stores where nary a piece of fresh fruit can be found. Indeed, retailers know that packaged tobacco can stay on the shelves for years. Who cares if it's expired? It's poison anyway. I don't care if it's still legal in some cases. no responsible community members can justify selling these carcinogens to their neighbors. So it's hard to watch because we all want our children to grow up healthy and free from addiction. I want my future grandchildren to not have the temptation of this readily available product presented as if it's okay when it kills when used as intended. That's why smoke-free environments and tobacco retail licenses matter. They're not just policies, they're steps toward protecting our families, creating cleaner air, and building neighborhoods where health comes first. So thank you all for showing up tonight. By being here, you're helping shape a future where everyone in our community can breathe easier, live healthier, and feel proud of the place we call home. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. My name is Erica Berry. I'm the project coordinator of the tobacco program. I wanted to invite you I wanted to welcome you to the event and thank you so much for coming tonight, whether you're in person or virtual. We have a packed agenda, so feel free to take a break if you need it. We ask during the event and after each presentation, we'll run the 3 questions. We do have a sheet of paper at each of the tables if you're in person. So if you have any more questions, we also have a Q&A box online that my colleague Tracy will share in the chat. And the bathrooms are located down the hall if you need them. If you have any questions, I will please see it right there. And so feel free to tap the shoulder if you need anything. So thank you so much. And without further ado, I'm going to pass on to Tracy Micham.
I will use the mic and hopefully online can hear me as well. Yeah. And hopefully the view of this camera over here. So it's one of the things last time people said, I want to see the speaker. So you're seeing me virtually. And I'm sorry for those of you who are seeing me here too. Okay. So I've been asked to kind of cover really the next 3 pieces of which are on the agenda. I'm going to kind of bounce and flow really within the 3 of them, even though right now it says smoke-free environments. I'm going to kind of bounce with a few things, and the next one is going to be probably talking about a tobacco retail license, and then the 3rd category is going to talk potentially about what we have done with a previous intern group that were of age, meaning about 21 years of age. So when I'm talking about smoke and or smoking, it's not just your traditional combustible cigarettes. It is your vaping products. It is your cannabis. It is also your cigars and things of that nature. And so when we talk about exposure to secondhand smoke, that's what I'm talking about. Is to be exposed to the products that an individual may not want to be exposed to for one reason or another. Whether it's personal choices, whether it's a health risk factor, which I actually fall into both of those categories. I have asthma, and it's an adult onset asthma thing that I didn't have until I actually moved here to California from Oregon. And then it's also personal choice. I choose not to put those products into my body because I know the harm that they're going to cause in my body potentially. I've lost 2 family members to tobacco products. One was cigars, the other was being exposed to because of her husband. So she actually died from secondhand exposure. And so, went into emphysema and all that kind of stuff. So there are personal things about this as well. But that's not what I'm here for. What I'm really here to do is provide information and education to any and all individuals to try to inspire people to really take a chance and take a step to go to your local city councils, to voice your words. I try to get kids involved. We're going to have some kids talking here tonight. They're the ones who I tend to say the local councils are going to want to hear. I'm this older gray-haired guy. I'm kind of working towards the end of my career and my life, hopefully about 4 years. But it's, the young people. It's those folks are the ones right here that it's your future. This is what we're trying to do is help benefit and protect your future because we haven't always done the best thing. So I'm going to kind of start it off really with, and I've got things written down, is in January, each January, the American Lung Association, what they do is they release a report. And it's a report card of sorts. And each city and county within California receives this, and it's also even done nationally. Solano County, when we get our report card in years past, it has been terrible. Every city has gotten Fs because they're not doing certain things to protect people from exposure to smoke. It's not having certain ordinances regulating tobacco, the sales of tobacco products. It's not enforcing them. So fortunately, in 2019, Benicia, they actually passed 2 comprehensive ordinances. One that was the environmental exposure. So it's really preventing from, smoke removal in housing. It's from preventing from smoking in parks, in lines of any sort where it's a communal line. In Vallejo, they just actually passed a tobacco retail license and a smoke removal unit housing ordinance in the last couple of years. It's bus transit stations. So these are all the places where people can congregate and be in. Vallejo, you've got the ferry lines, especially if you're a baseball fan or if you're a football fan. Well, not really football anymore, but if you're doing any of those types of things where you're going into the city by using the ferry, you're standing in line and people think, oh, it's fine. It's right here. We're going to pay right here. Where other people may not want to have that. So there are ordinances that each city or jurisdiction and even the unincorporated areas of Solano County, they can implement these ordinances which restrict those types of things. And so Vallejo last year received a C on that grading report card because they had passed a smoke removal housing ordinance the year before. This coming year, in 2026, they're probably going to get an A because they just passed a tobacco retail licensing ordinance. And the idea of what an ordinance can do is for the tobacco retailers, prior to the ordinance, they had 101 retailers in Vallejo. When this ordinance came through, there was a period of time that they had to submit for the licensing. In the licensing process, they had a period of time to put the license in. Only 71 retailers actually applied for that license. That's an automatic reduction of 30%. So that is very beneficial. And so that's something to look forward to. And in California, as far as what we have really been facing the last 10 years is the flavored tobacco product epidemic of exposing young people and trying to encourage young people to actually start to take up smoking with these variety of flavors. There are over 15,000 different flavors of vaping products and cigarette products that are out there that are enticing young people. It's enticing persons of color. It's enticing persons who are within the LGBTQ community. It's also enticing people who may be in a lower economic environment. So it's all the advertising is targeting these individuals. And so a part of what happened in 2022, November, California voted on Proposition 31. Proposition 31 pretty much eliminated the sale of tobacco products in the state of California, flavored tobacco products in the state of California, minus hookah. Hookah's different category. It also, within that, then started putting in regulations. But then the tobacco industry, the geniuses that they are, pivoted so fast. They already had, set up to have menthol or non-mentholated products, same packaging style, same thing. Then it's also, they have these concept flavors. Concept flavors are simple things such as, these are actually products which I had my young individuals went out and purchased in Fairfield and Suisun City. So this product is Flume. It is Flume Pebble. It is a vaping device. There's over 4,000 puffs in this device. This device is, they call it Flume Energy. Flume Energy, when I went online today, I went online. Flume Energy is a combination of energy drink and menthol products. They would turn around and say, tobacco industry, that's not a flavored product. Yes, it is. Because even when I open this up out of my safe where I keep all these in, I can smell all the sweet flavors. I had one of my staff who in my bag, I said, hey, come over here and tell me what you smell. And she's like, oh, I smell sweetness. I smell some strawberry. Maybe a little bit of, there's like a bite of something. It was the menthol. So these products, even though they don't have a specific name on them, are flavored products. So where all these things are coming from is, again, that retailers, we've gone through the process, retailers, and we hope that they're being truthful on us. They want to obey the law. They want to follow the law. But there's confusion of what they're selling because this Flume Energy, the retailer from the distributor saying, oh, it's okay. It doesn't have flavor in it. You're okay. So what the state has done is they had passed last year another state ordinance, which is really trying to help clarify these products. And it was Assembly Bill 3218, which it now is going to require all distributors and manufacturers to submit under affidavit to the state Attorney General's office saying that these products are not flavored. If they are deemed to be non-flavored, they will be put onto a list that is the unflavored list in which these retailers will be able to sell. That was me. So they'll be able to, they'll be on an unflavored list. Now, this list will be finally published the end of this year, so December 31st of this year should be published. Retailers will be receiving this list. Distributors and manufacturers will be receiving this list as well. So part of it is that they're going to end up having this list, and then they're going to know, I can't sell these products. But why is this all of a sudden important at the local level? Because at the local level, it's the local jurisdictions need to be the ones who are really enforcing these rules. Again, in Solano County, of the 7 cities, there are only 2 cities that actually have a tobacco retail license, Benicia and Vallejo. They have already set it in place where they are going out periodically to check the retailers, going into the store, show me your supply, show me this. This is not allowed to be sold. We're going to cite you for that. We're going to give you a warning. There's a whole list of different things that actually can be put into a tobacco retail license. And we have a group that's going to be coming up a little bit that they're going to tell you a lot more about that. And so just a few things to kind of really give folks an idea that with the products that we always like to do is we like to do surveys. And a part of the surveys that we have done within Fairfield and Sassoon, and every 2 years, there's a survey that is given to high school students. And 35% of 11th graders and 15% of 7th graders feel that it is very or fairly easy to access tobacco products. So they're saying, I can get it wherever I want, however I want. Okay? 50% of 11th graders, 29% of those 7th graders feel it is very easy or easy to access e-cigarettes or vaping devices. So again, these youth know that it's simple and easy to do. Because often, retailers, they're not checking their ID, or they're actually increasing the price because they know they can charge it to a younger person and not so much to an older person. But yet they're still selling flavored products, and that's what they're looking for. And that's how with the products which we did, we went to 68 retailers in Fairfield. We went to 56 of them. 14 of them sold to our young adults. They were not youth. I wanted adults because I wanted them to be successful in the purchase if they were part of it. None of them were part of it. They didn't even look at it. Some of the young adults had just turned 21, and they were baby face. And I'm like, yeah, they should have carded these people. They didn't. Not all of these products had different concept names. Products that we had. Aloe Watermelon Splash. It's in the name. This was sold. I have the date of the sale. I have the store that was sold. I have the time that it was sold on the cheaper side. And a couple of them, I have receipts. Not all of them gave receipts. I did not encourage my young adults to actually ask for receipts. But if they were provided one, they should take it. So when we look at that, and in Sassoon, we went to 17 retailers. Of those 17, 2 of them sold. So when we look at the percentages, Fairfield, 26% successful rate, Sassoon, 13% successful rate, when it should have been 0. That's why we need a local ordinance to go forward. Because if the retailers know that they're going to be checked, whether by code enforcement coming in, show me your supplies, or whether by a sting operation, where they have a young adult or they have a young teenager go in and try to purchase these products, then there's actually a knowledge. I can lose my license permanently. I can lose for a period of time. I'm going to have to pay a fine. So there's these pieces to it that are really going to help the retailers understand. There's a penalty. Because right now, people will say, oh, I get a license from the state. So why do I need a license from my local jurisdiction? Because the license from the state simply is your certificate license. So that you're going to be able to actually show your license to get your certificates for each product that you're getting in. And then you're going to be able to turn around and pay your taxes on that. That's what they're looking at. But it's the local level. What they're doing is it's a neutral funding source that it revenue neutral, meaning simply that the amount that's being charged annually is the amount in which it's going to help for the code enforcement or the law enforcement or even the community organization who's going to be going out and doing the checks. It helps to just simply pay for that service. So there's no debt to the city. There's no extra charge to the city, so they don't have to budget for it. It's there because it's part of those funds. And so that's a part of what it's going to do. It helps to do that. It helps keep the playing field regulated. So there's a lot of good pieces to it. When we also did some surveys, we did some public opinion polls in Fairfield. 39% of individuals said and strongly supported, 27 supported eliminating the sale of commercial tobacco altogether. And 47% strongly agree that the community has been negatively impacted by smoking, vaping, or tobacco use. That also includes tobacco product waste. So it's the product that is being thrown on the ground after the product is being used. Once, really technically, if once these vape devices are thrown down, or even cigarette butts thrown down on the ground, that actually is now hazardous material. It really should be collected in the proper manner. People don't pick up cigarette butts. They don't do that anymore. In Oregon, when I was in college, I did litter patrol. I got paid through the Department of Transportation. I was picking up cigarette butts, and I don't ever want to do that again. Okay. We used to do projects where we had young people doing that. I've got a wood casket that's about half the size of this table that's full of cigarette butts that was picked up. And I don't know how to get rid of it because I can't just throw it in the garbage anymore. So I have to look and find out how to get rid of it. Other things that we really found out is that let's see. There's one that I really want to specifically point out that it was about 88% of respondents strongly or somewhat agree that they should live in an environment free of smoke. And that's of the individuals. And this is not only from persons who don't smoke or to use tobacco products, that when we started breaking down who we were talking to, that I believe it was 31% of the individuals that we surveyed were current tobacco users. 13% were former users or potentially on part-time users. And then another 10% were former users altogether. So we just didn't go to a health fair and simply were at least thinking they're healthy. We went to places where people go and congregate and took everybody's opinion. And even in some of those cases, I would ask the person, would you like to complete my survey today about tobacco? And the person would tell me, oh, you don't want to know what I think because I use tobacco. And I said, no, I actually do want to know what you think because I wanted everybody's opinion. I didn't want to ask everybody's going to agree with me. I wanted different opinions. And so the anecdotal information we had found in general is my child has a severe lung disease. We can't go to parks without smokers or eat outdoors without a smoker walking past us. It's not fair. And one person, I smoke and I think it's a bad and I want to stop. I am a smoker. A lot of laws will be helpful for the community. And one person, going on this way, I have to get the positive as well as the negatives, in my view. I smoke Newports and I really don't want them to take those away. And then why is that? Because they're smooth and easy menthol flavored, easier to go down than a Camel type cigarette, which is what my brother smokes. We need more surveys like this. This is one of those things when we do surveys. We need more surveys like this. They should be surveying people more often. So that's from the surveying perspective side. So I know I've kind of bounced around a little bit here and there, but really what it comes down to is that it's the community is the ones who has to come forward. We can help with that type of information. We're providing information and education. We go to city council. I provide information and education. I've gone to Vallejo, helped in the process there, just providing the council members, here's what has been shown. Here's the different types of things that are out there. And I'm going now to Fairfield and trying to get myself over to Solano City as well. Because I really want to try to do is help impact as many communities as I can to educate the council members as best I can. And hopefully one of them will actually listen and take on this role as a champion for us. And that's what we're looking for. Is champions are not only council members, but it's also members of the community. It's the youth that we actually talk with and that we are working with and coordinate with. It's you for all those who are in this room right now. You are all potential champions to come forward and to make this, to be aware to the council that it is something of a concern to you as well. And I think that I'm done. I should probably get off of the line. Are there any questions here in the room and or anywhere in the virtual world? Nothing here in the room. Tracy, virtual. Okay, so I do have some handouts that I put over there that show the two surveys that we had done that deal with the tobacco retail license and also the smoke-free environments. And then I've also got some information that it's about the new assembly bill that will be going into effect with this new unflavored list. I will have that as well. I'll be putting them over here onto the table for anybody who'd like to take those with them today. So with that, where we at on the agenda? I feel like I probably spoke to
There's
you.
actions from the state.
Pardon?
Actions from the state.
Okay, so, yeah, really the actions from the state is that Assembly Bill 3218. That's part of the action that the state is actually taking forward right now. And that hopefully is going to help, once again, to help clarify to retailers what they are allowed to sell. And a part of what we're going to be doing in January, hopefully, probably potentially February, is we're going to be holding a forum just like this for retailers to help them understand that there's this new law, here's this new list, and to understand that there potentially is going to become a tobacco retail license throughout every city here in Solano County. That is our hope. It's not to try to put businesses out of business, because we also have another component of what we're trying to do at Public Health is to develop a guide or a scenario assistance for a retailer who should happen to want to change their business model. You may be a place where you sell convenience products. You may be a 7-Eleven, where you can take maybe those cigarette products and those other vaping products and take those off your shelves, no longer sell them, and then to turn around and maybe sell smoothies or boba, something of that nature, or even having fresh salads put together, because in many of these areas where you have these convenience stores and or the smaller stores or the small mom and pop kind of stores, you may not have a lot of produce in that area. It is also what is known as a food desert. We are currently right now, we are in a food desert. So whenever I have any of our new interns come here, or I have a new staff member who joins our team, then I will tell them, easiest thing to do is bring your lunch. Because your time you have for lunch is 30 minutes, and for you to go over to the mall, to get over there, in that rush hour time of lunchtime, you're not going to get over there and make it in time. And, you potentially could go down to Food for Less down there, but again, you got to go in your car, get down to the Food Less, get your food, whatever you're going to have, come back, and then have time to eat it. So, around here, Jelly Belly, you want to understand, actually has some pretty decent pizza. I've never had pizza, I've only had the Jelly Belly. So I've had that. Journey Coffee is another place over here that had some food for a while. They have more breakfasty kind of food, but it's all pastry stuff, so not something that I would want to have myself. So really, if you're a convenience store and you're providing more fresh fruits and vegetables up by the counter space, having prepared meals that a family can come and have a prepared meal, you are actually becoming more of a benefit to your community instead of providing a product that, when, as my former boss, Robin Cox, used to say, when used as directed, is known to kill. We can provide better options for people. So, Erica, where are we at?
Still on the same. I've been.
All right, because I know that I've kind of hit all 3 or 4 of those areas kind of quickly. Are we ready for just like a quick little break?
We're ready. Yeah,
Okay,
right.
let's do a quick little break. So for anybody who needs to get up, get some more food, all healthy food products, by the way. Water's back there, we have some other waters. And if you need a restroom or anything, they're definitely out here to the right, and then down the hall to the left. So, we'll be back.
Sorry, one of the things I've noticed, especially all the with flyers and stuff.
Yeah, we're trying to do that, and the part of it is, some of that is covered in the state. What's that? But what we're really trying to do is, we've got a new dietitian who actually just came up with a teach program. We want to get them that purview, so go out to local stores. Frankly, look at maybe doing that on store. And so we can help them even advocacy. Bring them from front, because it's going to be logos and other things that are helping your house store. So we get considered maybe getting maybe not like a certificate of quality of ABCD kind of stuff. Maybe it's showing that they are so that means certain is very helpful. Separated out alcohol store with certain There's a lot of water.
Well, on the undercover, inside, a number of years ago, that undercover activities. And I think that they use that still at the same level.
It's not the same level because the local police departments don't have those. There's only one that is for the same operations. At the state level, it's the state, which is the agency that is charged with creating those type of operations.
Yeah.
But you have 5 individuals who run the state.
Yeah.
So if they come through the public affairs, it's straight to use the state. But it's in, Sioux, they haven't come to Sioux in the last 3 years. Last of the people, Eric, so they're seeing it as, we don't really have problems, but then you go. The numbers are crazy. So, with those numbers, last year, it's a lot of accounts for those. So, and that's why you guys have.
Join the student podium.
But yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, so like, it's
So, especially.
we have like a salon, no.
But you, really good.
No. So we're,
When those
yeah. Yeah.
We can undo this.
But it's still the green.
No, it's fine.
Well, we got.
That's what I'm confused.
But
it's like, oh, it's like, no, you don't think
He's all right.
That's good.
She's got a bit.
Okay.
Okay, so.
Okay. Really important.
They take the cord from Tracy,
Okay.
but is that? She's the right, so shouldn't be any problem. Hold the cord from Tracy.
You know what I think? I'm just gonna tell you like next, it's fine, that better.
That works too. So what we could do too is we could either do that or we could just have her play the distribution. You could just get her slide. What would you prefer information?
Well, we're-
Time or? That works too. I can show you. Yeah. Steve is chair. Good. And then you're then second semester for yeah, we use report for that right now, and so they, yeah, so they. Yeah, yes, all right, so. I'm very working. Very summer. Yeah, 5:30 is. I would say choice, like, they had a day in the time estimated, so like, the school. And then civil for oh, I think yeah, I think great for you. And then the oh yeah, and then the results. Classroom. It's because still recording videos of you. Okay, yeah, there you go.
So you know, it's.
That or have that would that's your. Yeah, I'm looking at everybody's. Like type it or something. Did you record it and then push it? My house we has share. Like type it. I said, repeating is. Well, I'm still for like. Yeah. Like I could probably say something. But yeah. They can announce it.
So Elon needs to join the meeting so that your presentation can actually show to everybody here.
Let's say.
Okay. Did you originally get the invitation for this whole event?
So it's kind of.
Because you're not only those here can see this, because we should try to have it projected on there so you can join and try to get in here. So you're on.
Or it's you've been like. Using your phone. I'm just letting you know that.
I guess now that I think I have you under,
Yeah.
anything else you're doing this week? I've done this all. Doing a base bus. So we're not going to put that there. Let me sell it. So you guys are this base bus. That's make a broader announcement. Yeah. We try to make the Six Flags thing an annual thing.
I'm waiting to see your pop on.
That's about right too. Anyway, do the Six Flags. I kind of like it. Wouldn't really that expensive. Well, what kind of, beautiful things in Bible. That came in through the.
They're part of Epic. Yes.
Who's supposed to put us in that? Then the other two happened.
I'm actually
giving out a small people.
Yeah, because they do their.
So there's a small scholarship now with the, by the time you guys get our responses, right now we'll be giving out the team.
So, we brought them out.
You know, you have
Okay, so.
Now, meeting days. You want to make our meeting a better day or day?
First year, it's like maybe Saturday.
That's a lot.
Okay, we're going to start back at the with consecutive challenges. So we feedback. There we go. Where's your laptop? Speak loud. Easy up, guys. All right.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. It's Wednesday. It's hump day. Yes, we made it. Hopefully after this community forum, we'll leave invigorated and ready to go out and inspire our community to help us pass this TRL. So I'm going to be talking about the tobacco retail license impact on Black, Indigenous, and people of color just for a bit. This is a very, very brief presentation. I hope you want more. I hope you like inspired and I fed you just a little bit so that you'll reach out to myself or my other colleagues. My name is Yolanda Burris, and I am the program manager for Amplify for the African American Statewide Coordinating Center. And we are one of 6 priority population coordinating centers funded through the California Tobacco Prevention Program. Next slide, please. And what we do is work statewide with public health agencies, with competitive grantees who are funded through the Tobacco Prevention Program. But my favorite is we work with community-based organizations as well as small businesses to empower them to go out into their community and educate our people to impart health and wellness and make an impact and make change. So I'm so excited I've been able to do this for the past 7 years along with other colleagues. Enough of that formality. The real reason I'm here is because I am a Fairfield resident and I live in the unincorporated area in Cordelia. I've been there for 15 years and been proudly nestled there with my family, 3 kids and husband, 16-year-old daughter, 14-year-old son, and 10-year-old son. And, you know, we've all come together and had vape and smoking stories to share that have occurred to us, and happened to us through the years in the city. Next slide, please. So there is an African proverb, and I'm sure you've heard it, and probably didn't know it was an African proverb. If you want to go fast, go low. But if you want to go far, then go together. And that's what we're doing here tonight. We're gathered here in community to collectively move together toward a TRL to improve our community's health. Now, my first encounter with Juul, with vapes, occurred in about 2017, and I was on my way home, and I lived by Rodriguez High. So I was by Rod, and it was just stopped traffic. There's never stopped traffic in this neighborhood. It was about 5 minutes, and folks got real upset. We started looking out our window, and we see kids running back and forth to the cars, getting the vape, and exchanging money, and giving you vapes. And I'm thinking, what kind of device would, number one, stop me when I'm trying to go home real tired, but number two, why? How would a device make you want to just stop in traffic and make you want to get it and make you want to just buy it illegally? So that was my first encounter with the vape and Juul in particular. Next slide, please. So California is the golden state. You know, we're one of the leaders. We're one of 6 states that have a statewide flavor ban. California has strong policies in place prohibiting the sale of flavored tobacco products, such as the STATE Act, which Tracy mentioned, Senate Bill 793. That was our big win that enacted the flavors and menthol products amendments. But we had issues. We needed to have stricter enforcement. And so we enacted Senate Bill 1230, which retailers to now can receive fines for selling to youth up to $20,000. I love that. That was a great win. We also could seize flavored tobacco products as well. We needed to solidify it one more time with Assembly Bill 3218, which will have retailers submit unflavored tobacco products by December 31st of this year. So let's take a look at the impact that policy has made in our state thus far. Next slide. So these are trends of unit sales by flavor following California's flavored e-cigarette restriction. This data was pulled from tobaccomonitoring.org website. This chart identifies California's e-cigarette sales by flavor beginning in 2019 through May of 2025. And I'd like to note that the trends of unit sales by flavor following flavored e-cigarette restrictions, we're going to particularly pay attention to the stats between December 2022 and May of 2025. Folks, we got big wins. The following California's implementation of the flavored tobacco product restrictions, monthly e-cigarette total unit sales decreased by 58%. Non-tobacco flavored e-cigarette sales decreased by 82% in unit sales. Menthol flavored e-cigarettes sales decreased 92% in unit sales. And all other flavored e-cigarette sales decreased by 82% in unit sales. These major wins. We're doing so good. However, tobacco flavored e-cigarette sales increased by 14% per unit sale, and all clear and other cooling flavored e-cigarette sales increased by 433% over this time frame. Next slide, please. So this is where policy plays such an important part in protecting the health of our communities, and TRLs are needed to regulate the sales of these nicotine products. So of course, we're looking forward to the day when we no longer have to have nicotine products, but until that time comes, TRLs are our first line of defense. Number one, they allow conformity and regulation on how retailers operate. It also holds the retailers accountable. They now have some skin in the game, and their licenses can be lost or suspended for selling to minors. And it provides a systematic way to educate and train our retailers, and sometimes, not all the time, but once in a while, we get to build community with them. Let's take another look at the demographic landscape of Solano County. We're one of the most diverse counties in the state. We have over 65% of our residents that identify as Black, Indigenous, or people of color. 60% of the residents identify as African American and Black in Fairfield, and 20% Sioux City, and 16% in Vallejo. Next slide, please. Tobacco control policies that affect people of color. So California took the biggest step forward. They banned the sale of menthol and flavors, but we still can do more to bring California to tobacco in the game. And this includes updating the smoking definitions by adding vape and plant-based products to the definition of smoking. Solano County, Fairfield, Sioux City, we have the backing of the state of California to implement strong policies that will directly affect our unserved and marginalized communities. This includes a comprehensive TRL and enacting multi-unit housing policies that also affect second and third hand smoke, which protect not only our youth from the dangers of harmful toxins, but also many of our residents, particularly our elderly. Next slide. Next slide. Let's talk a little bit about retail density and target marketing. So what happens when we implement a strong TRL policy? Well, there will be reduced disparities in point of sale advertising. And a little did you know facts that neighborhoods that are predominantly African American are 90% more likely to have higher density tobacco advertising. And little cigars and cigarillos are sold in a cheaper and bundled package pricing in these areas, and especially in the Hispanic Latino communities as well. So as we go through to reduce disparities in policy, according to a study on the association between the license fee increase and the density of tobacco retail in California, raising tobacco retail licensing fees reduces the number of retailers, and especially in our low income and majority Black and Latino zip codes. So this means that the TRL isn't just symbolic, it's a proven policy tool that addresses retailers and concentrates on the inequities and access. Our youth prevention and local impact. So this picture here that you see is not just a stock picture. This picture was taken in my neighborhood in Cordelia at our local power market, and that's my 10-year-old son Cameron. And earlier this year, he was given a vape at school during recess, and the kids found it at our power market on the floor. And he was able to have it for 2 to 3 days before it was reported and taken away. But during this time, we had other kids go to try to look at power market to see what they could find on the ground as well. So we're well aware that this is an epidemic, and particularly with our coalition by Solano, thank you so much for addressing this issue with our council members, as well as the Solano County Office of Education. They also believe by regulating retailers more strictly, the county can help reduce youth exposure to tobacco products. Next slide, please. Well, this is the most important takeaway from my presentation for you, is that we need to address the historical targeting of the tobacco industry, the science of melanin and tobacco. Commercial tobacco companies have been researching African Americans since the 1950s. So we have 75 years of predatory marketing tactics that have set a cultural norm and standard that has been existing for 3 generations. 3 generations of death, 3 generations of destruction, and it's time that we change this norm. So we must keep in mind that we're dealing with federally adjudicated racketeers here. And it's been noted in the Truth Initiative industry documents that these executives are quoted saying that we don't smoke hash, we don't sell it, we only sell it. But we reserve the right to smoke for the young, the poor, the Black, and stupid. Now, their research is the predecessor of all predatory marketing for all priority populations. And with their extensive research that they did back in the 50s, their findings indicated that nicotine had a biochemical affinity for melanin, all shades of melanin. And even though African Americans smoked fewer cigarettes than some of the other groups, they had higher intake of nicotine from each of the cigarettes. And let's add menthol to the equation. Menthol allows for the deeper inhalation. And we like to coin this as the African Americanization of menthol cigarettes. And I like to coin it as the history of the beginning of predatory marketing for our marginalized communities. Next slide, please. So tobacco is not just a health issue, it's a social justice issue. When marginalized communities are targeted by the industry, where we have more retail outlets in their neighborhoods, it perpetuates inequities. Material policy will lever the power shift, and it allows local government to regulate predatory practices, protect our youth, and reduce harm in the communities that need it the most. Next slide, please. So in closing, we want to rid our communities of death, disease, and change social norms that exist. Help us say goodbye to commercial tobacco. Join the fight, help us heal our community.
Hey, thank you so much, Yvonne. We're going to now turn to our next speaker, which is Bay Area Community Resources, Youth Tobacco Advocacy and Policy Group. So, yes.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. We have a youth presentation, but before we go into the presentation, I want to give you all a clue as to why it's so very important for you to be here this evening. We are in the midst of an epidemic, and our youth are being targeted. And what is happening is that their trajectory to not only be academically successful, but to be successful as human beings is being interrupted. As Yolande just told us, this is definitely a predatory effort. And I want to give you a perspective about how outnumbered we are. In this room tonight, there are probably no more than 30 of us. And I would be willing to bet that our total income does not exceed $10 million a year. You go ahead and laugh at that. But we are faced against an adversary that has employees and researchers in the tens and hundreds of thousands, and they have the capacity to have inexhaustible or expendable resources that weigh well into the hundreds of millions. So indeed, this is a David versus Goliath effort. It is a Herculean effort. But what we do have is people power. We have hundreds of thousands of advocates globally, if not millions, and this is the way that this fight is going to be won. And I'm not speaking in the future sense. We are winning this battle right now in California, in the Bay Area, in Southern California, and that's why it is imperative that you are here tonight. Because although this room doesn't even outnumber 30 advocates, we represent the voice of hundreds of thousands of parents, school teachers, community members, elected officials that are done with tobacco, ruining the lives of our children. With that being said, I want to strengthen and fortify your hopes, and I want to give you over to our Youth Tobacco and Policy Project. They've been working extremely hard to give you this presentation and give you their testimony. Thank you.
So I first just like to start by introducing the group here with us today. So as mentioned before, we're the Youth Tobacco Control Advocacy and Policy Project. And we're basically just a group of barefoot youth who are striving to make the place in which we live and go to school a healthier and safer environment for everybody. Our main focus is to advocate for our community and support those affected by the presence of tobacco. Next slide, please. So when looking at this slide, what do each of these pretty much have in mind? I'm sure you would notice that all of these are tobacco products. They're things that can deliver nicotine into your lung. There are a great deal of different choices here. There's flavored vapes, disposable pens, little cigars, nicotine pouches, and hundreds of different products with minuscule differences that all do the same thing. They deliver nicotine to us. And then not only that, but the design elements such as colors, names, and packaging are all marketing tools the tobacco industry uses to make these products seem trendy and harmless. You've become very susceptible to the wide variety of tobacco products, as some are pushed to be considered less harmful than others, which just contributes to more youth consumption of nicotine.
Some vapes even have built-in video games or LED lights to make them appear fun and really just appeal to the youth. But this is on purpose. They're combining not only video games, which are already super addictive to youth, with nicotine, one of the most addictive substances in the world. That's not innovation, that's manipulation. They're trying to create a generation of people addicted to nicotine, addicted to products, and buying. But we need to stop that. As I said, they know what they're doing. They know that 90% of adult addicts started before the age of 18. They want us to get addicted so that we can be their lifelong customer. Their goal is to get the youth addicted. Every sweet flavor, every bright color, every discount. It's all intentional. It's to make tobacco more accessible and appealing to the youth. Next slide, please. I'll just go ahead and start off with the map you see here. This is a map of Fairfield with every green dot symbolizing a tobacco retailer or just a store that sells tobacco products. As you can tell, there are quite a few clusters. And that just makes it really easy for the youth to be able to access these since they're so spread out and concentrated. Indeed, because youth like us, we have seen a lot of tobacco products around us. We probably have easy access to it because I know for me personally, I've definitely seen a lot of my classmates just hit a vape and throughout different schools that I've been in. The data proves what we see. 9% of 7th graders and 18% of 11th graders in Fairfield have already vaped. Take a moment and think about that. That's about 1 in every 5 juniors here in Fairfield that have vaped. That's not exactly. As a matter of fact, 90% of Fairfield tobacco retailers were selling vapes, and 70% of those were selling single-use cigarillos, which are where most youth start with their addiction because it's accessible. It's probably just a few dollars, if not just one, and it's tempting if it's that cheap. Not only that, but 20% of the stores that were surveyed offer discounts to tobacco products, vapes, all of that. That might seem like a good deal because, oh, I'm saving money, but it's really just part of a strategy. They're trying to make it more accessible to you so that they get them hooked on earlier. Think about that, bro. Think about all these numbers. They're not just statistics. It's my experience or my testimony. I originally had a metaphor, but this is not the version where I changed the picture. So just imagine 2 hands of a sister and a brother on grass. Okay, we'll start with that. Like I said, for me, this issue is pretty personal. I'll start with this. My older sister is a recent graduate of Fairfield High School here in Fairfield, but she originally began at Armeo, just a 9th grader, just a few years ago, if you consider my age. That's crazy to think about. That she was able to get addicted at such a young age, and it was easy for her to find drug dealers for them to find her, and she was a victim. She got addicted, and then my parents got out. And that really just tore the relationships. Seeing my mother grow farther and farther from my sister, seeing my father grow more distant, more disappointed. It was devastating. Watching that pain, having seen how our family cried for her, has made me want to fight for prevention, to protect people before they get trapped in addiction.
So as you guys probably heard before with the predatory marketing, just to give it a little bit of a more specific definition, predatory marketing is when companies target vulnerable people, especially the youth, using ads and specific strategies designed to manipulate and influence our emotions and decisions. We, the youth, pretty much often get like prey because of this marketing, especially when the products they're advertising are so dangerous. They use candy flavors like mango, cotton candy, and sour candy flavors. And then they design things to look like USB drives, highlighters, or with video games on them. Either so like teachers will notice them, or just so that they're more appealing for a kid to want to buy. And they flood social media platforms, which teens and youth use all of the time. And then on top of all of that, they place tobacco and smoke shops in low-income neighborhoods and by parks and schools to target you. By targeting us, tobacco companies aim to normalize tobacco use and addiction among the youth and manipulate us to stay addicted and lifelong customers. So when I was around 13 years old, so I was in 7th, 8th grade, I used to walk to school every day. Every morning, I would walk past a house on my street selling vapes and cannabis. And then as I continued down my commute, I would walk past the smoke shop with a lot of vape advertising pretty much everywhere. Luckily, I was never personally tempted to buy any of these products because of how I was raised, but I know a lot of people who were and who did buy these products. They would smoke and vape in the bathrooms frequently, and I would even offer vapes from some of my classmates multiple times. The tobacco company's efforts to market to the youth works. And so much so that their users, consisting of as young as elementary school students, to market for them, believing it's cool to use these products or to hook someone up with these products, or even just to post on social media. Because picture of it. Marketing tobacco products or any of these types of dangerous products is really harmful to us. And I know that firsthand that it works and people are suffering because of it.
So what can we do about it? That's where a tobacco retail license comes in. A TRL or tobacco retail license is not just a piece of paper. It's a policy that holds stores accountable. It means any business that wants to sell tobacco must apply for a CD license, renew it each year, and follow clear health and safety rules. The license fees fund compliance checks, actual visits to stores to make sure that they're not selling to minors or violating the law. Without those checks, many stores keep selling to underage youth because no one's watching. And when stores do break the rules, the city can suspend or revoke their license. That's stronger than just giving them a fine. If you can't follow the law, you lose the privilege to sell. A TRO also creates fairness. Most retailers want to do the right thing. This makes sure that everyone follows the same standards and helps level the playing field. It limits how many stores can sell tobacco in Fairfield based on the population. That prevents some neighborhoods from being flooded with retail sellers, as well as keeping new tobacco stores at least 1,000 feet away from schools, parks, and youth centers, and 600 feet away from other tobacco or cannabis shops. That helps stop clusters of stores from forming near where young people hang out. Next slide, please. Fairfield isn't the first city to face this challenge, and we've seen that change is possible. As more cities implement TRLs, tobacco retail licenses, the less likely it will be that youth around the state will be able to obtain these dangerous substances, and the harder it will be to carry them into other areas. Other cities that have implemented these TRLs have already shown significant improvement when dealing with harmful products, protecting youth first and foremost. So Fairfield doesn't have to wait for a crisis. We can take action now and protect our youth before the numbers get worse. Next slide, please. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide, please. Now, the question is, what can you do about it? Now that you've heard all of our stories, all of these facts, how can you make a change? Well, for starters, please do go ahead and sign our petition, voice your support for our cause, voice your support for the TRL, and let our elected officials know that this isn't just a problem for a few people. This is a huge problem for all of our community. Thank you.
I want to make sure that I give credit where credit is due. I'm definitely not responsible for this brilliance that you saw. So, Nefer, would you please come up? This is our program coordinator with Bay Area Community Resources. She's responsible for what you just saw. Her name is Nefertiti Kelly Farai.
Thank you, Kaylin. Well, so nice to see so many familiar faces. We have been working tirelessly in other cities, and now we find ourselves here in Fairfield. I'm very proud of the work of this youth because we often think like they could be doing anything, and they're here. And I'm very proud to see all the young faces and the youth present because it's a work that is going to support them and their peers. They are asking for letters of support. We can create letters and send them to Erica and Tracy. We are all working for the same goal. Public comments. We know that there's going to be a training on how to create public comments shortly with Alex Winston, which is great. And if you can scan this QR code for signing the petition takes less than a minute. We're gonna have in the entrance also a hard copy. And if you have this electronically, like in the presentation that we're going to share, please share this with your peers, your classmates, your neighbors. It is a collaboration. We are working together to pass a TRL that would protect generations to come. So thank you so much.
Okay, before they run away, anybody have any questions of them? I know we were having some technical challenges that were online. We will get the slide decks to everybody, but the main thing, that's why we also have the cameras, so hopefully you guys can see them. Okay, thank you. Now, for those who are here actually in the room, I also wanted to point out that we have I don't know what I would call Ms. Larson's other than a champion of student creativity. In the room we have here, sorry for those who are in the virtual world, that we have posters that some of our students have created that are around the room. So please make sure that you take time to recognize those youth. We have a couple of the youth who are here today who worked on some of those projects, as well as for when some of you first came into the room that was playing up on the projector were some of the creative art products that they were making that was through, I'm going to say animation. I know that's not the right creative skill, but I'm getting ahead now back here. So through animation. So it's recognizing some of these things that these youth have done and created. And I am going to recommend to the students and to the school, Rodriguez High School, that if you so choose to maybe send those items to your local council members to show your expression so that they see these types of things of what youth are seeing and experiencing in their communities. It is a part of whether it's spoken word or spoken art, creative art, just showing that art is very cool. And it's a lost art that we need to make sure we have more often in our school systems. But it's also really showing that it's an expression that what kids are experiencing, and it's an easy way for them to express that in the formats. So hopefully I see that Alex is getting herself ready and prepared to do her presentation here, and it is showing on our screen as here as well. Hopefully, Alex, you have your audio prepared. And so with that, I'm going to let Alex Winston take over, and she works for, well, I'll let her talk about what she's going to do. She's going to help kind of teach us how to communicate with our local elected officials to express our feelings, our hopes, and our desires is the way I'm going to put it. So thank you.
Thanks, Tracy. Hopefully all of you can hear me okay. Is the sound all right? Yes? No?
Cannot hear you, Alex.
Hmm.
Well, we cannot hear you in the room, that is.
Okay.
Well, you may hear that or read lips. Yes, that is Tracy's little dry sense of humor.
Can you hear me now?
Okay. Go for it, Alex.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yay! Hi, everyone. I'm so glad to be joining you tonight. I'm so sorry that I'm not there in person. What a great turnout. I'm bummed. I don't want to be really talking at you. I'd rather be talking with you. But I'm coming from you all the way at 10 p.m. From Florida. I'm Alex Winston. I am from UCSF's The Loop. I've been working with The Loop for about 10 years. I've had my fingers in tobacco control all over California and the Bay Area for over a decade now. I know you all have been sitting and listening to several presentations, so just to kind of reset everybody and wake everybody up, if you want to take a minute and Give me a clap back. Give me 2 claps back. Now slide to the left. No, I'm just kidding. But you want to wake up a little bit and join me. We're going to talk about giving public comments, which I have done a lot of, and I'm glad I get to come here and share it with you. So it sounds like some amazing work is happening, and my presentation doesn't want to move. There we go. We're going to do a quick introduction. We're going to talk about how we address elected officials when we're speaking to them. I've seen people go up to the podium and just say, hey, you guys. It's not what we want to do. Different styles of speaking, what to expect when you go to a public meeting, and the differences between lobbying versus education. And then I'm going to share some examples of some recent public comments. Some of them were actually in the city of Vallejo, and they are mine. I was a resident of Vallejo at the time, and I was able to speak as a resident, which was nice. So this is just a little bit about me. I told you I've been in tobacco control. That says 9+ years. It's been 10+ years now. I've been blessed to work on at least 25 successful tobacco control policies throughout the state of California, and now a few in the state of Florida as well. I'm not going to read all this out to you, but this is what allows me to come here and speak with all of you today, and I just kind of like to share a little bit about myself before I get started. So the first thing we're going to talk about is opportunities to speak. You heard some of the previous speakers. I heard Never talk about a public hearing that's probably coming up, which is definitely an opportunity to speak. Other ways is that you can talk to your elected officials anytime. You can make phone calls. You can send them an email. I highly suggest sending them snail mail. And I say that because I formerly was an aide to two different commissioners in Solano County, 2 supervisors, including Supervisor Monica Brown, who is still one of the Solano County supervisors, and retired Solano County Supervisor Skip Thompson. As their aide, sometimes people would send things through the regular mail, which is snail mail. Every single time something came in the mail, I would open it, I would read it, and if it was addressed to one of my bosses that I was working for, I would put it in their inbox, and then they would get it and they would read it. So it's a very good way to not get lost in the scroll, which happens a lot. Elected officials can receive hundreds of emails in a day, conducting the business of the city or county that they're representing. So it's a really good tool to use that I think has been kind of long forgotten about, and I'm going to encourage everyone to still do it. You can set up an in-person meeting or a virtual meeting with your decision makers. You can attend community events where elected officials are scheduled to be. Many of them are out and about. I am so all about ambushing elected officials and taking a moment of their time when I can get it, especially when I'm trying to get something done. So if you see them, at the county fair, over at the fairgrounds in Vallejo, if you see them at the local whatever meeting, other meetings that you attend, take time to, tell them what you're working on and what you're doing. There's a kind of a sideways way also to move into policy areas, which is through committee meetings. Elected officials are assigned to various different committees, like behavioral health committees. If you're doing smoke-free outdoor air, usually there is fire, commissions. There's all different kinds of things. And believe it or not, tobacco can fit into any one of those areas depending on what kind of ordinance you're working on. And committees can also bring recommendations for policies forward to the city councils and the boards of supervisors that they serve. So I have done a couple policies that way and kind of come in through the side because we weren't having much success with the city council or board of supervisors themselves, and had it go up through a committee. And that's how it finally moved forward. So if you're feeling any kind of frustration on any tobacco control policies you're working on, that's another way that you might be able to get through. And then the last one, which I already touched on, which is going to city council and board of supervisors meeting. I also want to say that you can go and make a public comment anytime. It doesn't matter if your item is on the agenda or not. You can go talk to your elected officials and decision makers whenever you want to during the public comment period at the beginning of the meeting or the end of the meeting. I also will say, I think it's a really good idea for you to go and do that even before you have an item on the agenda. Because as you go in and you introduce yourself and you tell them what you're working on and you kind of show up a few times, then there's this familiarity in the, oh, I remember you. Oh, I remember you. And then you can keep coming back and saying, oh, we're working on this. I can't wait to show you the data. And then you can come back with the data, and then you can do this and you can do that. And then eventually, if you have something on the agenda, once you get there, you've already shown up, educated them, educated any of the public who's watching the meeting, and there's already a little bit of a relationship there, and they know what you're doing and how you're working with their constituency, which is important. So addressing elected officials, always address elected officials by their title and their last name. I've got a couple of examples here of Chair Vargas, our Vice Chair Lawson Remmer. These are various different city, Board of Supervisors members in California. Supervisor Brown, who I just mentioned. If it's a mayor, you would call him Mayor McCann, Vice Mayor, whoever, Verter Liga will say. Council member Chavez. If you're addressing all of them, like if you're giving a public comment, you could say, good morning, chair and supervisors, or board, or good evening, mayor and city council. So usually you always want to address leadership, but you don't want to walk up and say, hey guys, this is what's happening, because you're not kind of honoring the fight that they went through to get there to represent you either. So it's a good idea to address them by their formal title and last name. Of course, if you ever meet Supervisor Brown, she will say, call me Monica, at which point then you can. So the next thing we're going to do is talk about the different types of public comment that I have seen over the years be most effective. So, number one, facts. Tracy at the beginning of the meeting shared some statistics with you. I know that there's been a lot of surveys going on. And you guys have been gathering incredible local data, which is amazing. A lot of times we only have access to like statewide data or sometimes nationwide data, which is great. But that local data is just gold. I mean, that's the stuff, because it directly impacts the constituents that the decision makers are representing. So being armed with data and having an answer to every question about that data is why you're the expert in the room. So get familiar with the data that you're going to use, because sometimes elected officials will say, what is your source? Be ready to answer. Be ready to answer where you got the data from. If you pulled it from CDC or American Lung Association or somewhere else, or if you were part of the survey collection, explain how you got the answers to the survey, what you did, if it was an observation survey, so on and so forth. Pick your top 3 data points and fill in the rest of the conversation with other things. And these are the other things. Personal stories. We've heard several of those tonight. Joseph opened the meeting with one. I certainly have one. I know many of my colleagues in this room know it. You'll hear it in a public comment of mine later. But elected officials care about the well-being of their constituents. They really do. I can't tell you how many city council meetings or board of supervisors meetings that I have gone and given a public comment at, and then after the public comment period has closed, the city council members or the board of supervisors members will then start sharing their own personal story and the impact tobacco has had on their families and their lives. It moves votes. I have seen it move votes. It's very important. If you share your personal story in there, you're doing great. And the last one is rebuttals. We know that the tobacco industry, amongst others, are in the business of sharing misleading messaging. Like vaping is a perfect example of the when it first came out, right? It was advertised as like a cessation product, like quit smoking and start vaping, not knowing any type of consequences of what vaping even does to our bodies. There's a lot of different things out there, but you can include in your public comment rebuttals to that information, and they're golden. I'll talk a little bit about that later, and I'll show you in the examples what I mean by that. So just kind of covering the basics of what to expect when you do give public comment at a meeting. You'll be asked to provide your name or your organization, whether you are speaking in public comment, which is items not on the agenda, or if you're speaking on a specific agenda item, it will ask you whatever the number is of that item on the agenda, and you'll have to fill that in and hand it over to the clerk. And that way the clerk can hand it to the chair so that they can call on you to speak when it's your turn. Time is very important. All city councils and board of supervisors meetings have time limits on how long you can speak. Usually they're between 5 minutes and 3 minutes. But if there's a lot of speakers on an item, like if all of our friends in the room here do a great job and they show up at the Fairfield City Council meeting, the president of the city council or the chair of the city council can choose to limit that time based on there being so many speakers on an item. So you may have walked in thinking you had 5 minutes to speak, and now all of a sudden you have 1 or 2 minutes to speak. Engagement. This one's important. I cannot tell you how many times working for the Solano County Board of Supervisors, I would see people come in upset about an issue and start firing off questions at the Board of Supervisors. It's very uncomfortable. It ruffles a lot of feathers. They are not obligated to respond to you in any way during public comment. It just irritates them. And I think it's always important to remember we do not want to irritate the people that we are asking to do something for us in our community, right? Like we don't want to do that. So you can ask them questions. They do not have to answer you. So I would say don't do that at all. But I would say that sometimes they might ask you questions. And so you can respond to them if they ask you questions. Lots of times you might see somebody conclude a public comment, they're finished, but then one of the elected officials will want to follow up with an additional question, in which case it's okay for you to answer. All right, lobbying versus education. I am not going to read all of this to you, but what I will tell you is that a really good rule of thumb is to know that you're lobbying whenever you're telling an elected official to support or oppose something. Instantly, it becomes lobbying. I will show you examples in my public comments. Education is giving those facts, that's sharing those personal stories, and that's also rebutting misinformation. But if you say, please support this ordinance, or please vote yes, or please vote no, you are lobbying. So here is an example. This is an actual public comment that I gave. This was, I think the first time I shared this public comment was at San Diego. Maybe it was LA. I don't remember. It was either somewhere in SoCal, in a big city or county, was the first time I gave this public comment. I think it was San Diego. This was during COVID. The tobacco industry lobby did a very good job of ringing the alarm bells, and because meetings were virtual, there wasn't any way to tell who was calling from where or what. And so 700 tobacco retailers and lobbyists called into this meeting to give public comment. It got so out of control, actually, that they cut the meeting off eventually. But I did get a chance to speak, and it was only for 1 minute. And you may think to yourself, how do I make an impact in 1 minute? And this is how I chose to do it. And this is the only one I'm going to read the whole one, but I will read it 'cause it's only a minute. Good afternoon, Mayor and City Council. My name is Alex Winston, and I would like to share my story with you. In 2017, my son started vaping flavored tobacco products at his high school where he was supposed to be safe, and he still does 3 years later at age 18. I am not a bad parent because my son started vaping products designed for him and sold to him by businesses, not me, his mother. In 2019, my husband, who was trying to quit, was vaping menthol and died at age 42 of a severe heart arrhythmia and the equivalent of 3 packs of cigarettes worth of unregulated nicotine in his system, leaving me a single mother of 4. My husband was mixed race, Black and Native American, 2 of the highest risk populations to suffer from tobacco-related disease and the predatory marketing of menthol by the tobacco industry. His life mattered. Please vote in favor of the proposed flavored tobacco product ordinance and include hookah and e-cigarettes. No person, business, or government should profit off of people's lives. We were too late for my son, who's already addicted, and for my husband, who is no longer with us. Let us not be too late for the next generation. Thank you for your leadership on this issue. I was really loud when I said that. I'm being very calm now, but I said it with a lot of conviction at the time. I was pretty wound up, especially with the big fight back from the tobacco lobby. This is a true story. These things did happen to me. I am going to, and my family, I should say, point out a couple things about this public comment. All 3 elements that I talked about earlier are in here. One is the facts. The fact is that my husband was mixed race, Black and Native American, which is 2 of the highest risk populations to suffer from tobacco-related disease and the predatory marketing of menthol by the industry. The next one I'm going to point out is the rebuttal. I'm not a bad parent because my son started vaping. There was a lot of talk by the tobacco lobby at that time that it was a parent's job and it was their failure and their fault if their kids started vaping. My son bought vapes in Vallejo, a place where this coalition, along with myself and others, were able to pass a TRL to try to prevent that from happening. It was very easy for him to walk right from Vallejo High School to the vape shop and buy vapes. Him and all of his friends did it. When high school students in Benicia couldn't get their vapes in Benicia anymore because the TRL passed there, they started to drive to this store in Vallejo because it was known for selling to underage youth. And then the last one that I'm going to point out is this whole thing is a personal story. Everything about it is personal. Very clearly, right? And that's in 1 minute. If I can do it, you can do it too. And your story might not be as wild and crazy business as mine is, but everybody's got one. Everybody has a story. This is an example of a smoke-free multi-unit housing letter that I sent to the Vallejo City Council. It's very long. I'm not going to read it, but again, I'm going to point out just a few things about it. One is how I introduce myself, which is very important. I am not representing, at the time, Supervisor Brown's office, because I was working for her as a district aide. 2, I'm not representing UCSF at the Loop. I am representing myself as a resident, which I say very clearly in the first sentence of this letter. And because I'm representing myself as a resident of Vallejo, I am allowed to lobby because I am not doing it under any CTPP funding or projects that disallow me from being able to do so. At the time when I made this letter to send to the city council, 20.3% of Solano County's children suffered from asthma compared to the state average of 14.6%, which is flippin' staggering, in my opinion. That was one of the facts that I chose to include in here. There's quite a bit of personal story that's included in here. And the other thing I want to point out is I didn't live in multi-unit housing. So how does this apply to me? And I told them about that. It applied to me because I had a daughter that had asthma, because my husband died from tobacco-related disease. So moving into a more affordable housing situation in multi-unit housing wasn't going to happen because there was no smoke-free multi-unit housing ordinance, and I wasn't going to take my daughter to the emergency room every 5 minutes. It wasn't even an option. And that's why it affected me too. And then, of course, at the very end here, I think there's a very important line, which also includes kind of the rebuttal to a lot of the rhetoric that we were hearing from the pushback on this ordinance, which is that we can do this in a kind way through community education, cessation assistance, and not stigmatizing smokers. That's not the goal of what this ordinance was about. So again, hitting all 3 of those styles of public comment. How am I doing on time? I can't see my clock. Okay, got a few more minutes. This is actually kind of a mashup. This was a public comment that I heard a member of the community give at a city council meeting. I saw it flip a no vote. It was for a comprehensive tobacco ordinance that we call, where it just kind of, the city had no ordinances at all, and then it just like adopted everything at the same time, including smoke-free dining and smoke-free parks. One of the city council members was very against the ordinance because he thought people already can't smoke here, there, and everywhere. Why can't they smoke outside? And he thought it was an impingement on other people's rights. And so this woman was sitting in the audience of the city council meeting. I was there working, I think, with American Lung Association at the time, and I love it when this happens because it's magical. She was there for a totally different thing, a totally different item on the agenda. She was not with us. She was not in the advocacy business, none of that stuff. But she listened to the ordinance be read. She listened to a couple of speakers, including myself, and then she got up and she shared about her 2-year-old daughter picking a cigarette butt up off the ground and putting it in her mouth. And every single one of the city council meetings like clutched their pearls. They were like, right? Like it was, because it's gross. It grossed everybody out. And then she went on to kind of talk about that and why it was important for everybody that they have a smoke-free outdoor dining and parks ordinance, because we're sharing those spaces with everybody. And so it flipped the no vote and it passed. But that part was just, an organic, hey, this thing happened to me problem. And she got up and spoke about it, and it changed the 1 no vote that was on that city council. It was great. This is another example for TRL. I'm trying to poke through it a little bit here and pull a couple out. The 5 packs of little cigars being sold for 99 cents. One time I heard a speaker say that was just like, you could pull that change out of the couch. You could dig that out of the couch. That's how easy it was to attain. That was on a minimum price policy. And then, of course, tobacco-free pharmacies. Bob Gordon, bless his heart, he just retired. He was the champion of tobacco-free pharmacies in California. We're still selling tobacco products. Walgreens, right? You can go in there to get your cancer medication and buy a pack of smokes on the way out. Like, how is that not an oxymoron? Anyway, this is just another example of a TRL comment that kind of brings up several different parts to a TRL, which is kind of like you ask for the kitchen sink and take what you can get. That includes minimum price and tobacco-free pharmacies. And then the last thing I want to chat with you about is practicing your public comments. Prepare a 1-minute comment and a 3-minute comment. Using the different styles that we covered in this presentation, which are facts, personal stories, and rebuttals. How can you come up with rebuttals if the meeting hasn't happened yet? I can tell you exactly how. Watch meetings for the TRL that passed in Vallejo. Watch them in surrounding areas and see what the comments are. It's a really good way to prep. You'll hear all the nonsense from the tobacco lobby or the pushback that comes from that. And believe me, there are community members who will get up and speak. The tobacco industry has no problem handing out money to people and asking them to give public comments too. Some of them may be there on their own accord. Others might be paid to be there. You never really know unless they tell you, which sometimes they do. Which is kind of funny in my opinion, but funny, not funny. But you're like, I don't think you were supposed to say that. Anyway, but I say that because some people feel comfortable talking off on the fly. They feel comfortable, talking off the cuff or responding to previous comments that were said. I'm kind of one of those people. But a lot of people like to have their public comment written down. They want it to be prepared. Right? They have a certain amount of time that they can speak. So you want to practice how long you're taking, but you also want to be prepared that if there's a lot of speakers that time is going to get cut short. You don't want to be put on the spot and be like, oh my gosh, I made a public comment that's 5 minutes long and they just cut it to 1 minute. What am I going to do? So to kind of like get that nervous edge off, I highly recommend having a really short one, like a 3-minute long one. Try to formulate your comments without lobbying if you're not allowed to lobby. Again, CTPP funded projects are not allowed to lobby. If you're just a citizen or you're part of an organization who is allowed to lobby, feel free, lobby away. But if you're not allowed to lobby, try to formulate it without lobbying. I highly recommend practicing out loud. And timing yourself, because when you say things out loud, you can kind of catch stuff that you might have missed when you were writing it, or your sentence might like jumble up or something and be like, you know what, I need to change that. You can video yourself and watch it back to see where you can improve with your tone and delivery. I can't tell you how helpful it's been for me to go back and watch public comment videos of myself to be able to see where I can improve, and share in front of your coworkers, the coalition, a group of family members, and be open to feedback. Give it a shot and try it out and see how it goes. And if some people are like, that sounded terrible, you need to fix this or whatever, just be like, well, what, find out what you need to improve on. Some people do things when they're speaking without even knowing it. Like they'll say a lot, or they might smack their lips while they're talking a lot, or they have these mannerisms that they're so used to doing that they're not even aware of it. I'm one of them. I'm one of those people. And it took me watching myself back over and over again to like catch it and be able to improve those things. So this is the last little message I'm going to leave you with. I shared it in the chat. The Loop is having a town hall meeting tonight or tomorrow. Sorry, not tonight. Tomorrow afternoon. We would love for you to join us. This idea was really born from wanting to have like an interactive community healing session, given the current events that are happening throughout our nation and also within our line of work with tobacco prevention, like the CDC's tobacco prevention program being decimated and public health really losing a lot of funding and things like that. I think we're all feeling a lot of stress. We're going to have a couple of different topics that we're going to talk about. One of the ones I'm going to be talking about is collaborating with people that we don't like, agree with, or trust, and trying to build shared interests with them, which will be super great. Dr. Valerie Yerger, my boss over at UCSF, is going to talk about how we can address our stress and some tools that we can use to do that. Brian Davis, who also is a part of this coalition and a big part of the TRL, on Friday will be there talking about prioritizing commercial tobacco prevention and control at times like this. So it's going to be a really good time. We're all going to get together and chat and take a seat at the table. I hope you can join us. And the last thing I have here is a survey, because CTPP wants us to survey the heck out of everybody all the time. So we would love to have your feedback. If you do the survey, because not enough people do, you have a pretty good chance that you might win a $20 Target gift card. Our evaluator does a lottery and pulls about 10 names at the end of every quarter, I think it is, and sends out $20 gift cards to the people who took the survey. So that's my shameless plug for taking out your phone and taking a picture of this and doing the survey. And with that, if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to take them and be done.
Are there any questions in the room? None. Thank you, Alex. Joseph, come forward for closing comments. And then when he is done, we're going to shut the feed down.
I don't have any questions for Alex, but I was going to point out that one thing I've done when I've spoken in public is after I type it out, I go to AI and I plug it in and I say, how long will it take you to say this? And if you don't know if you're going to be speaking for 1 minute or 3 minutes, obviously put the important stuff first. You can always rehash it. You have to speak for longer, or you can speak for longer. I also wanted to point out is that sometimes it's lost. The tobacco-related illness is the most preventable cause of death. If that's not enough of a reason to stay up at night and worry about this, I don't know what it is. I also want to point out that I'm going to be careful to distinguish between commercial tobacco and sacred traditional tobacco that was used by Native American populations and indigenous populations here in the United States. The commercial tobacco industry has nothing to do with the kind of tobacco that was used traditionally here in North America. It's a completely different product, and so that distinction is important to point out. And also that the enemy is the tobacco industry, not the people who smoke. And I don't say smokers anymore. I say people who smoke. I think that's more appropriate. And past, I know we talked a lot about middle schools and high schools. I honestly think that elementary school is not too early to start talking about how it's bad for your health. I know kids don't necessarily want to talk about it bad when they're in elementary school, but you can always say that it's better for one's health if you just completely avoid these addictive substances. And then lastly, most importantly, I would say, please be encouraged to go to Fairfield and Sassoon and speak in person if possible. I know this is usually on school night, so you have the Zoom option, but it is more effective. I would love for these city council members to see the youth really standing up and see their future voters. Caitlin has a question.
For me, the ones who don't know the MD program, we state because they have a lot of commercials on right now, like I haven't seen the Paul Park. Could you just talk a little bit about the correlation between the MD program and their relationship to our work?
If you're talking about what I was telling my friend Michelle here, is that youth who become engaged in basically any social activism have far better mental health throughout the rest of their lives. Is that what you're referring to, or something else? Okay. Caleb wants to take the mic. That's fine.
So just for a second. So many of you, if you watch sports or popular television shows, you will see the Undue California commercials, and you'll always know they're undue commercials because they're about tobacco prevention, or they're about restoratively rejecting tobacco. And what I mean by that is looking at the adverse impacts of tobacco over time in California and saying we want to undo that by this messaging, by specifically speaking to populations that have historically been targeted with predatory marketing. So if you see those commercials, we're in collaboration with the Undo program. So go ahead and feel free to find out more information about those, because I know that they're publicly highlighted, particularly during sports shows and TV programs.
So one last thing. So also one of the advantages of doing this activism for the past several years is that I get to learn more about these ordinances, and in my spare time, I volunteer for the Humane Society of the North Bay, and I happen to remember Tracy Nishan told me that these outdoor smoking policies refer also to city-owned properties. Well, when I found out that the Humane Society is on City of Vallejo property, and that every time I would drive in, I would have to roll up my windows. I wouldn't have to smell the smoking section. I raised it up to the board and I said, this is not allowed. And I pointed to the ordinance, and I'm very happy to say that now the Humane Society is a smoke-free campus. And yeah, I'm very glad to know that. So anyway, that's my last anecdote.
I got it. Yeah. Oh, yes, you have a question.
I just wanted to say thank you for saying something about tobacco. I used to work for the American Indian Cancer Control Project. And as far as I know, we are the only race, ethnic group in this country that use tobacco in a spiritual and ceremonial way. And so when we're teaching our youth, we are teaching them that this is a medicine, that this is tobacco is put on the sacred fire, and we do this so that the smoke will carry our prayers. So they are taught that this is sacred, like our sage, our sweetgrass, our cedar, our bare root, and from our brothers and sisters on the other side of the false border who use copal. So this is what we are taught, and this is what we teach our youth. And as far as Solano County is concerned, and as far as the smoking situation and everything else, We're not an underserved population. We are not served at all as Indigenous people. We are totally erased in every aspect. Was getting into some situations on Native people and mental health and so many, and domestic violence and so many other things. We are not at the table. We are not at the table here as well.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that comment. Well, thank you so much for attending our Tobacco Community Forum, both virtually and online. We really appreciate your support. Again, next year we'll be going out to City Council. So if you're interested in participating with us and, supporting the TRL and any tobacco prevention activities, please reach out to us. We would love to have your support. So thank you so much. And if you have any other questions about any topics covered today, feel free to email us, or you have the Q&A box if you're virtual. So thank you. Feel free to grab some more food. And we also have some swag at the back table. We have some health resources for the kids or teens. We have some free swag, so please take it as much as you want of that. It's all for you. So thank you so much.
Recording stopped.